The best way to describe what the Oblivion Remastered is to show the menu screen. It is more detailed, higher production value, and in some ways better, but it's almost unnecessary. There is more going on here than Oblivion's original menu scheme. The details and production value makes it look a lot better. The ruins of Kavacha smoking outward to the sky, and in front of it is the vibrant red of the Oblivion Gate, the character front and center, saying that this will be you, a hero fighting against hell. But this change seems weird. Was this needed? The original menu screen worked. It had so much charm and personality to it. It is basic with just scrolling across the map, but invokes so much. Invoked a sense of adventure as you see all the map scrolling past. These are places you can visit, and scrolling past the map gives it a sense of being a bigger than it is. This is a large world. Couple that with the UI art style, and it gives the right feelings of high fantasy. This is a tale of legends. And this extends to the Oblivion Remastered UI. Why change the original Oblivion's UI design? It is very fitting for what the game is going for, a typical high fantasy aesthetic. The book design and having to flip through the pages gave the right feeling for what it is going for. But the newer one is minimalistic. Granted, it isn't minimalistic with no style, thankfully. When I first saw it, I was worried that it was going to be, minimalistic with no style, but like with Skyrim's minimalistic design, it is with style. It retains all the wonderfully made icons and images of the original but puts it into a different form, and I am happy that they were able to keep it. But that form it takes is one I don't really like at all. This UI has been in countless games, from Assassin's Creed's RPGs games to Dragon Age the Veilguard. Now, I don't think the UI is exactly like how those games did it, as it still retains the older UI elements, and on a controller the setup is basically the same, with shifting in between tabs, but the form it takes is different. There's a reason why so many games adopt it, like how spacebar is the universal button for jump, so too is the UI the universal language that everyone can understand. Though despite that, it removes any unique qualities that would identify it as the game it is a part of. Despite the changes making some sense, it is an unnecessary change, but was made anyways. It's not a bad change, but that is what a lot of the remaster does. It changes things, but also doesn't. It is Oblivion for better and for worse. The world design still retains what is special about Oblivion's world. When the leaked screenshots got shared, it was very brown. But that was just a time of day issue and not really emblematic of what the remaster would be. The world is still vibrant, so vibrant, but in a different way than before. Original Oblivion was vibrant in a fantasy book sort of way. Its characters and environments didn't look real. It was very real in the sense that the proportions were correct and the designs were based in reality, but the style was fantastical. What the remaster does is make it much more vibrant in a realistic sense. The remaster goes for more realism. I wouldn't say it's perfect, but in the environment, it is just wonderful. Walking to Kavash to save Martin and seeing the greenery of the hills and trees and looking off to the distances to see the same vibrance is so typical of what the Oblivion experience is. And the same is true for when it turns night. The stars are shining brightly down and the world is covered in darkness. Not in a way to obscure, but to highlight the different kinds of vibrance. I am convinced if Oblivion was made today, this is what it would look like. And that is masterfully done by Virtuos. Being able to retain this aspect that is so core to the appeal of Bethesda games is an achievement. The only issue is that when it turns from night to day or vice versa, it is a bit browner, but that is due to the realistic lighting system they have. Now, for the most part, this remaster retains that feel of Oblivion, which I am surprised by. Again, I thought this was going to be much less vibrant than the original, but in playing the game, I'm more struck on how close it is to the original game. But what was the point? The original looking outdated wasn't an issue because its art style held it together. Playing the original to this day doesn't really show how its world design has been eroded with time. It just shows how good it looks to this day. But the only improvement that was really needed was the faces. And in them, it is better and worse. Better because certain characters and races really do look amazing. Mostly humans and the beast races. Finally, I can play a Khajiit or an Argonian without going, okay. The only issue is the elves and orcs. Some are alright, but others look off. Obviously, characters like the Adoran Fan look like their goofy selves, but the others look off. It's an uncanniness. It's so much more realistic, but still trying to capture that Oblivion charm. It fits in a way that kind of reinforces that Oblivion charm with the faces. It's intentional to be sure, and therefore an accomplishment at that. And some characters like Boris, my man, looks so much better. They gave him a beard. It looks so good. He looked fine before, but now, oh, it's so good. And the obvious main characters look just as good as before, though I do question some decisions like giving characters stubble. Like a few here and there is fine, but why did they give Martin stubble? It's odd. Where the most improvement to the faces is in the player characters models. There is such a vast improvement on the originals, and I think that is intentional. Having the goofiness still be there with the NPCs is important for the Oblivion charm, but having the player character exempted from this is a very good move, while you can still make horrid creatures, and I'm not showing that because I find the joke of making terrible creatures only funny so many times. Players want to make a character that represents what they want. It fits my criteria for a good character creator. It is hard to accidentally make a bad looking character, and it is easy to make a good looking character, though it is still easy enough to make a horrid looking character. Quite an achievement, I must say. I also love how they added different backgrounds that you can be. You can be a Nord from East or West, or you can be a Dunmer from the mainland or Vardenfell. Though the orcs still look bad. Trying to keep within the Oblivion style of orcs makes sense, but it just doesn't look that good. It's odder because the elves are much more aligned with their later versions. They still retain that sort of Oblivion charm, but their eyes look much more consistent with later interpretations, which brings a great amount of consistency, which I like a lot. The orcs are not given that consistency. Their Skyrim depiction looks amazing and really sells that bestial look to them, but a noble aspect as well. Oblivion Remastered does this a bunch, where it takes the newer versions of objects, races, and places and puts them in, but a bit of consistency and not in places where the consistency would be better used. Like how Shading Hall still looks like an Imperial city with some Dunmer influences instead of a Dunmer city with Imperial influences. But Bruma looks much more like a Nord city, like a combination of Windhelm and Whiterun. The stony structure of the city combined with the wooden architecture, it looks much more representative of what Nords than what they were before. The consistency for what things will look like in the future is there, but not always. The changes they made to the design look amazing, it generally does, though they could have done so much more. While they add new customization options for the races, they could have done so much more, which is odd. Why not change more? If they were making this from the ground up in Unreal Engine 5, why not change more? The answer is because they wanted to just keep Oblivion as is, according to an interview with the developers, but give it a few upgrades and quality of life features. That is fair, but still makes it unnecessary. I think there is another reason why the Oblivion Remaster exists, I'll get to that in a moment, but there has to be more than what is being said here. Where it truly is better and gives reasons for it to exist is the combat. Combat in original Oblivion is not great. The biggest issue are the lack of feedback. So much of the original Oblivion combat is swinging your paddle faster than the opponent can swing theirs. You don't know if you hit them because there isn't much indication that you did, except for them being slightly pushed back and when you stagger them with a power attack. But even then, it isn't that much when compared to the remaster. The remaster has made animations for your attacks feel a lot more impactful and weightier, as you can see on the screen. And when you hit the enemy, gasp, it gives feedback. Every melee weapon is improved. In regards to magic, the original lacks feedback as well. You cast the spell and it does an effect, but it feels so much more now. When you cast heal, the animations of raising your hand to the motions of casting the spell feel very satisfying. And the bow is far better as well. Now, Oblivion's bow was better than Morrowind's, but that is a whole other deal and I don't want to get into that. But it was inconsistent. It can work, but it being inconsistent felt bad to use. Not anymore. The bow is a far better option. There can be an issue where being a stealth archer is a bit overpowered, but since it isn't given the same way as Skyrim's, it doesn't take over the game. Side point, Skyrim's telegraphs the stealth archer, which makes leaning into that playstyle so easy. But with tight spaces of the tutorial area and ease at which you are detected, it is harder for new or returning players to go through that stealth archer phase in Oblivion. And the sense of progression wasn't really there. Early Oblivion felt like it was just taking a while to kill people. Late game original Oblivion felt like it was taking much longer. The remaster addresses this. Not perfectly, mind you, but there is a sense that when you grow more powerfully, the game reflects that. This isn't even mentioning that they solved the leveling problem. Now, I think it is a bit exaggerated, as if you just stick to the playstyle your class is based off of, then there won't be an issue. The whole point of choosing a class is staying with your class's strengths. Normally leveling in Oblivion is possible, but if someone is playing on the harder difficulties, it does become a nightmare. But they did solve it by simply having you choose where to invest your points. now called Virtues, meaning you don't have to be concerned with leveling up only certain skills to get a +5 in governing attribute. You can level up whatever skills you want, then assign the virtues in whatever attributes you want. Now, it is still important to level up the skills you want to use, but that was obvious from the start. If you do that in any Elder Scrolls game, it'll obviously result in the player feeling underpowered. Now, playing on harder difficulties will be about how you, the player, play, and on how well a spreadsheet maker you are. There are other changes like sprint existing, and that's cool, and some of the minor things like adding new voice actors and having Skyrim voice actors in the remaster, which I do like. But for the most part, this is where the remaster being better than the original ends, and therefore its reason to exist in the first place. Everything that is good about Oblivion is here. Either it is just the same as before, or made better like with the combat, but all the mistakes and issues that Oblivion has is still present. The story, while I argue is better in some ways than Skyrim's and Morrowind's due to it being told better, still has the same issues as before, such as having no stepping off point for the player to justify exploring the world. If you roleplay this game with any amount of seriousness, you would just do the story and won't stop until the end of the game. When you get to that end, it just feels final, which is good, but also bad because why continue? You did it. You saved the world. This is where the book says the end, and it closes. Other things like scraping the blood off of Tiber Septim's 100-year-old armor, or Green Emperor Way still having the Mythic Dawn map plain to see for all. And while the leveling problem is solved, the level scaling still remains. Completing some quests too early will give you items at a low level. Completing them later will give you the item at a higher level. Enemies will spawn according to your level. Not just adding enemies, but removing them completely. And bandits still have the quite comedic property of gaining Daedric and glass armor for some reason. Having level scaling makes the least amount of sense. Sure, the same story and its issues is fine. It's a remaster, not a remake. But after attempting to solve the leveling problem, but not putting any effort into solving the level scaling problem, is weird. It undermines what they did for the combat massively. If enemies didn't scale to your level, the progression would feel a lot better, and it would give quest rewards more longevity. Which leads me to the conclusion I've been building towards. What would be the reason for someone to play this over the original? It is better in some areas like the combat, but for the most part it's Oblivion. The reason some people would play this over the original is that they liked original Oblivion, but think that it would be better with higher production value and detail. That is enough for them, and it seems that those people are quite happy with that. If you look at the reactions online, that is very evident. I myself think the remaster is better than the original. I wasn't a fan of how the game looked initially, but as I played more of it, I grew to like it a lot. And I say this as not a fan of the Elder Scrolls series. While Oblivion is my favorite game out of the series, as I find its story much better told, it's presented better than Skyrim's, and additionally it is just better than Skyrim's story. And while Morrowind's has a better story, its presentation is so lacking that it hampers my enjoyment. That is why I think I would enjoy Skyrim. But the point I'm trying to get at is that I don't have too much nostalgia for this game or any in the series, because I just don't like the style the series is going for. I'm not a fan of these games because they don't put an emphasis on telling the story. I'm a Bioware fan for a reason. So it is understandable why so many fans of original Oblivion like it. It is Oblivion for better and for worse. And for people who haven't played Oblivion, this is just a better version of Oblivion. Better looking, better feeling, and retains everything that made the original good. Which is, again, is surprising to me. I thought I would really dislike this, but no, it generally is such a good and faithful remaster of Oblivion. I will end off this part of the discussion with this. My best experience with Oblivion Remastered is going to the Imperial City for the first time and seeing the mountains of Skyrim at night. The stars were out and the aurora of Skyrim was shining. It was such a beautiful and organic moment that only Bethesda games could really do. It's a real demonstration of how masterful Bethesda and Virtuos are when it comes to these moments of visual art. And while I lament the UI changes and how it doesn't really improve the story or fix the leveling scaling problem, if someone wants to play Oblivion, they should choose the remaster. And this kind of remaster hasn't been done before to my knowledge, and certainly not done with a highly influential and highly sold game like Oblivion. I do think there is something to talk about with this kind of remaster. A lot of remasters are similar to the Mass Effect Legendary Edition, where it is just bundling the games together and has some improvements. But what Oblivion Remastered is doing is more than just that. It is built from the ground up, giving better graphics, and in the end, it's basically the same. I wonder what a game like Dragon Age Origins would look like with a style of remaster.
Oblivion Remastered has opened the door for a different kind of remaster and shown it is successful. So I hope if any more remasters come about, it will be done in this style. And lastly, I can't help but feel like Oblivion Remastered is being made so it can serve as a testbed for TES 6. Oblivion is in the middle period of simplifying the Elder Scrolls gameplay while holding on to its more RPG roots. It has classes, attributes, disposition, and more in-depth magic. Unlike Skyrim, which removed all of those features, or simplified them so massively that it doesn't really exist, like its disposition, but Oblivion has a lot less when compared to Morrowind, the obvious being how hit chance is used to demonstrate RPG progression. Oblivion being in the middle of that makes it a good enough testbed for TES 6. Bethesda clearly knows that people didn't like the simplifying of their RPG elements, as evidenced by Starfield, where you have a lot of backgrounds to choose from. Not saying Starfield is a return to form, but it is clear that they are aware of people's complaints and want to address it. Oblivion Remaster even adds background options. This could be testing for TES 6. Bethesda isn't just doing this to give Elder Scrolls fans another game before TES 6, but building up the tools to make TES 6. I can't imagine building Oblivion from the ground up in Unreal Engine 5 and not reusing it. Obviously TES 6 won't be Oblivion 2, but I believe that what was made will be reused. It just has to, which I think is a good thing for the series. Reinventing itself does stave off monotony and boredom, but it does remove elements that people enjoyed. Oblivion Remaster is wonderfully faithful to the original. That is a good thing, but it's also a bad thing. I praise Bethesda and especially Virtuos for doing this. While the remaster does have issues, it is clear that a lot of love was put into it. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you enjoyed it, perhaps like the video. If you didn't, then there's a button for that as well. But if you really enjoyed this, perhaps consider subscribing. And maybe comment down below what you think of the remaster and what it could mean for the future of Bethesda games.